Omar, how are you?
Hey, doing good.
Good. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to episodes. I don't know how many. It's been a while. It's been a few. 148, I think. Wow. And even Machine is here from minute one now. Amazing. This episode is proudly sponsored by Joa Life. Use code TSLA Live to get 5% off your purchase, and I get 5% from your purchase, which goes towards um, improving this space. And Omar, we may have a second sponsor in the pipeline. So
Awesome.
yeah, we I need to get up to a couple dozen sponsors in the coming months. So if anybody knows any companies who might be interested in sponsoring this episode, Tesla Live, please let me know, and I can reach out to them with a pitch. All right. Um, man, quite volatile days going on here, Omar. Tesla up 5%, down 5%, up 5%, day after day after day. What do you attribute to that volatility?
I mean, the way I see it, it's just been flat, and it's been flat for a while now. The market always fluctuates. You don't necessarily need to worry too much about why it's moving one way or the other. There's always a million reasons combined that add up to why the market is moving, but I think that people are as FSD 12.5 starts to roll out. So, it's now starting to roll out to hardware 4 cars. A decent chunk of people got it yesterday. I think it may have been the biggest rollout of that update ever. But of course, we're still going to have to wait another week for hardware 3 cars to get it. And there are more hardware 3 cars than hardware 4 cars. So I think really as people try it, their eyes are going to open to the fact that what people are discussing online and on Wall Street is really lagging far behind what we're actually seeing the car able to do. It is, people I think don't really know how to ask the right questions. Everybody is talking about, well, okay, it needs to be 10 times better, 100 times better, 1,000 times better to be a robotaxi. But what people are really experiencing in the car with hands-free self-driving for the first time is it's completely normal for it to be able to drive for hours without you touching a thing. So we're getting to the point now where it's beyond the realm of humans to notice the difference. Like it's hard for them to tell the difference between this and a robotaxi because most of the time it just does exactly what a robotaxi would do. And as people see that, I think their autonomy expectations will increase. And some of that's going to translate into people buying the stock. Certainly, you've had a few analyst notes about it. I think this is going to continue as this ends up going to 100% of the fleet.
Great. It's always good to start with the calming voice of Omar. I love it. Dallas, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, Tesla's one of those stocks that I put my chips on as a long-term investment. I see a world where there's Tesla products in almost every facet of our day-to-day life with Optimus and vehicles, and down the road with other stuff that we're not even aware that they're working on. So, in my mind, this is not a day-to-day stock. It's fun days like today, seeing it pop green, and like Omar said in the past, red days are good days to buy because long term, I feel that this stock's only going to go up.
Okay, great. I pinned at the top of your screens a post. So I'm starting one-on-one interviews on my YouTube channel, and I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel because the ad revenue from YouTube supports this space. And I'm going to start with Dirty Tesla. We're going to record the interview tonight. please go up to the top of your screens and add a question in the replies, what I should ask him, and subscribe to the channel. And I have a series of people who have already agreed to come on for one-on-one interviews. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to these interviews. And I'm going to use the spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet at the top, to basically guide the conversations. So my vision right now is to have a tab per person and have them, roughly estimate where they believe each milestone listed on the left-hand column, and maybe build some sort of a community consensus around this. Omar, what do you think about this spreadsheet? What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. I would maybe have the episodes stay member exclusive for 2 to 4 weeks so that by the time they go public, they're kind of less relevant. And that way you could encourage people to become members and get some extra content.
Absolutely. I think that's a good idea. So what I'm trying, so you can, so a lot of people have complained about the subscription price on X, and I get it, right? I told the story before why it's so high, and I can't change it. But on YouTube, membership is only $2.99 a month, and you can join members only chats, and you can have access to these videos 1 to 2 weeks in advance if you become a member. And that's, I think, a great way to support Tesla Live. It also promotes the YouTube channel. So the more members we get, the more I think YouTube algorithm pushes the videos out to others, promotes the channel. So I need a few hundred people to sign up as members on YouTube. And I'll post that link every now and then. It's basically just my channel name / join. All right, that's a good idea. So we'll have members advance access to those videos 1 week in advance, and then it'll be public the week after that. What do you think about the questions I listed on the left-hand column at the top?
Let me see.
So basically, I tried to do milestones that I believe will be material to Tesla's bottom line. Revenue, top line, and profits, bottom line, margins. And I think these are the milestones that people have a wide range of estimates. So we'll have conversations around these milestones on the one-on-one interviews. And ultimately, I would like each interviewee to come up with some sort of rough guess. Which quarter, which year. If it's long term, on the right-hand side, I have 2030 plus, 2040 plus, 2050 plus type of stuff. Obviously, this will evolve over time, and we'll have one tab per person. And then as they come on, and Omar, I hope that you come on frequently, maybe once every other week or so, we can discuss, certain developments one-on-one as well, without the distractions of moderation. I think it's good to have these group discussions on the X space where anybody can request to speak. But I think the YouTube channel, I'm going to have, select people who have a track record, who have proven to think deeply about everything Tesla, all things Tesla. And I think that's it's going to be a good complementary aspect of Tesla Life.
Yeah, YouTube definitely pays out a lot of money. They write me a big check every month, so, several $1,000s. So, and I don't even have that many subscribers, so you could probably make a lot of money from YouTube. Probably makes sense to invest in that channel.
Yeah. All right, good. And that patrons get daily summaries of Tesla Live, as well as macro weeklies and Tesla weeklies over the weekends. So I'm going to try to focus on those 3 platforms, grow them together. All right. Man, what about Nvidia? Nvidia is surging again, double digits up today. Let's talk a little bit. It's earnings season, so let's talk a little bit about other companies. AMD announced strong Q2 results on the back of AI. Their Nvidia competitor MI300 demand. They're forecasting extremely high demand. Um, what do you think about that? Nvidia and AMD, Omar.
Yeah, AMD is a great company. Um, they really rose to prominence when Intel was the dominant player, and they had their x86 line of processors. And AMD said, hey, we've got a processor that runs that exact same Intel code. So no need to port your operating system to our chips. Just take the exact same code that runs on Intel and actually just run it on our chips, and we'll maybe make your processor a little cheaper, a little better. And they found huge success as an Intel alternative. Then, as they moved to 64-bit, they really pioneered bringing 64-bit chips to market. And in recent years, many people have said that the AMD chips are actually better than the Intel chips in a lot of important ways in terms of price, in terms of performance. So they not only cloned Intel, but ended up actually leapfrogging them. So, they're a great company, and they bought ATI, the graphics card company, way back in the day, several decades ago, and they've been making GPUs for quite some time. So, the AMD GPUs do almost the exact same thing as the NVIDIA GPUs. The exact same thing. They can run the exact same operations. But really, because of CUDA, a lot of the software only runs well on NVIDIA, and it doesn't really run as well on the AMD GPUs. So there's this huge price imbalance where an equivalent AMD GPU compared to an NVIDIA GPU is way cheaper. And developers have been trying to address that imbalance by coming up with software to better utilize the AMD GPUs and to create software that can train on not only NVIDIA hardware, but AMD too. So there's sort of a ton of moat that NVIDIA has there. CUDA is one of them. I think NVLink. You really can't throw in some AMD GPUs in a cluster of NVIDIA GPUs. It has to be all NVIDIA so they can talk to each other. But there really is this sort of huge untapped opportunity, I think, with AMD. They have the product that is doing the exact same thing. They've been making GPUs forever, and their GPUs have the exact same functions that are used to hardware accelerate training on the NVIDIA side. And there's sort of this shortage on the NVIDIA side. So there's some significant technical hurdles to make an AMD GPU a decent substitute for an NVIDIA GPU. But, over the next 2 to 5 years, I could see that lead sort of chipping away, it becoming more of an equal playing field, and AMD to see very strong growth, potentially, depending on how they execute, even stronger than NVIDIA.
So I'm guessing Nvidia stock is up so substantially in sympathy with AMD. Do you agree with the market that AMD announcing strong data center results should reflect well on Nvidia stock, or do you think Nvidia is potentially gaining market share here?
I think that it's probably going to indicate strong results for NVIDIA as well. As I mentioned, there's significant lock into the NVIDIA ecosystem today. While AMD may potentially pose a competitive threat long term, it's very much just benefiting from the sort of excess demand. It's not really anybody's first choice, but it is a choice, and people who can use it will. but I think Nvidia is probably going to continue to see strong orders. The sort of ecosystem advantages they have will take years to break. We're talking, at least 4 quarters for the tech to evolve in a way that people can meaningfully move to an alternative supplier like AMD or some other company.
Okay. So, I mean, you're making pretty penny today. You have both Nvidia and Tesla stock. Both are up substantially, and you're holding on to both. And I think you're adding to your Tesla shares when at the dips, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Hey, Uzi, you're late today, 20 minutes. Please put in half day PTO in the system.
No, I was here, but I didn't get invited to the speaker board, and it hurt my feelings. So I left and came back. I had a call, but I left and came
Well,
back.
you know what the problem is? Machine now has a blue check mark. And because of that, he appears at the top. And I don't get to see people with fewer followings, even with blue check marks. That's just blame him, basically.
I blame machine and the algorithm. They're
Yeah.
both after me.
Yeah. So Uzi helped me out yesterday with the testing of my YouTube StreamYard setup. And I think it went well. So tonight we're going to do a one-on-one interview with Dirty Tesla. Please go to the top of your screens, reply to the tweet at the top about what you would like me to ask Dirty Tesla, Chris. I think it's going to be a fun one-on-one interview. It's a good start because he's also experienced using StreamYard for his channel. So, and he's very easygoing. I think he'll be game with a lot of the things that I want to ask him about. We're going to go a wide-ranging interview. It's going to be a wide-ranging interview. Obviously, very much focused on FSD and robotaxis, but he also owns a Cybertruck. He can also speak, riff about Optimus or Mars. So it should be a fun one. Machine.
Why does everyone hate me?
Why? What happened? Who's bothering you?
Your listener base, who presumably follows me on X, they're very sensitive. They're very sensitive to anything about FSD unless it's all farting roses. And it's not always roses coming out of my butt. Sometimes it's real information, real insight that you don't get anywhere else. I'm not going to sugarcoat everything. It doesn't mean you have to get so upset. Even renowned Twitter handles with many, multiple more users than me get all upset when I make a comment about Hardware 3, saying now that I'm spewing FUD, which is ridiculous, totally ridiculous. I'm just trying to look for the truth. And today, I made a plot about just trying to give some sense of where humans operate in terms of accident rates and such. And there's a lot of leeway there. You can totally argue some of these numbers can go one way or the other. But the amount of visceral reaction from both Tesla bulls and Tesla bears is kind of out of control. You have some people saying, egregious, we should have these things on the road with 10,000 miles per critical disengagement. And then on the other hand, you have people saying humans aren't getting in accidents only once every 600,000 miles. So they're vastly apart. And I'm trying to thread the needle. So I would appreciate it if everyone would thank me for my dedication to searching for the truth.
Yeah. I appreciate your forecasts and predictions and your insights. There's no question about it. And I will protect you from any haters. If there's a hater, let me know their first name, last name, and social security number, and I will take care of it. Don't worry about it. Also, when are you going to come to my YouTube channel for a one-on-one interview? I'm going to have these interviews, cameras off, but you can share screens. So if you want to talk about any sort of kind of plots, you can do so. We can do a one-on-one, and you can share any personal information that you want to, or you can stay anonymous. That's fine as well. And I just, cameras off because I don't have the setup for that kind of stuff right now. And then secondly, because I don't want people's views of you being colored because of your excellent hair, dashing eyes, and pretty smile.
We need to do a full YouTube video interview with movie lighting and
No shirts.
a hot Swedish female actress in a bed.
Yeah, that will get
recording a commercial, which may or may not have happened previously with me.
Yeah, I will open up our interview with that video. How about that, Danny?
That would be amazing. Hey guys, about the FSD tracker website, is it automatic upload? Does it include disengagement when, at the end, let's say you disengage to park?
No, this is just people filling out surveys. So it's a pretty bad source of data, to be honest. But it's all we have, so everybody looks at it and acts like this is fact, but it's just people filling out surveys. It's subjective. It's obviously not representative of the overall fleet. I mean, just looking at some of these entries, they have a bunch of drives from Texas and 2 from California for 12.5. So, it's the best we have, but it's not like it's automatic or anything. People are manually sort of filling out surveys. I think they also have an app that you can load onto your screen where you sort of tap it when something happens. But it, a person probably wouldn't enter a disengagement just because the drive ended.
Machine.
Yeah, as much as I've loved the FSD beta tracker as giving us some indication, I'm starting to get concerned that we are just simply not going to be able to record the number of miles needed to get statistical significance as the miles per disengagement go up. So, for example, let's say you try to break things down into batches, like, oh, I have 100 miles for different people, and I have 10 different people. And if we're getting about 100 miles per disengagement, I can kind of take the average of those 10 samples and get some estimate with some standard deviation. Now, if you go to, you're only getting a disengagement every 1,000 miles, and all you've recorded is about 1,000 miles, you have basically one batch. So you have no idea what the variance is between the next batch of the next 1,000 miles. So you need about 10,000 miles to start getting any sense if it's a reliable estimate. And now imagine if you're getting to a level of reliability of 10,000 miles per disengagement. Now you're going to need at least 100,000 miles or so of reporting to get a reliable estimate. So I don't know if there's enough people driving enough miles, recording it, to allow us to really get a sense as this miles per disengagement goes up from here.
I really, I can't help but think that you're trying to undermine Tesla FSD tracker before you lose our coffee bet.
Well, I'm not. I mean, honestly, I may lose it just based on the statistics as it is. So I'm not.
You may lose it. Are you serious? Dude, it's August and it's still at 97%.
Yeah, no, but what I was thinking is that we're simply not going to be able to get a ton of miles. I think there's enough, maybe over a month, to input for this level. For our bet. But I'm just thinking, as this thing gets better, it's not going to give enough data to report reliably. There just simply won't be enough data. You just won't have enough instances of issues to get a reliable sense of the variance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. But it is all we have right now until Tesla starts sharing their internal data. I mean, do you have
You know what? I'm
any
gonna
other
build a
way?
better one. I'm gonna build a better one because I found out that Tesla actually has a fleet telemetry API, and they gave me a certificate, and you can literally configure the vehicle to pipe raw data to you, and it reports whether autopilot's on or off, and like when they adjust the speed up and down and everything. So you could actually digitally track some of this stuff and probably get a lot more data. But I'm too lazy, so maybe somebody
Can
could help
you
me build this.
make it so that you have hundreds of testers from multiple
Yeah, you could
okay.
have thousands of people testing it, you know? I mean, Tesla might be kind of like, "Hey, what are you doing?" But um, that I don't think they would revoke my developer account or anything. They hopefully trust me that I'm not, doing anything sketchy. But like looking at the FSD tracker, it says percentage drives with no critical disengagement. California 100%, New Jersey 100%, Illinois 100%. Obviously, it's not actually 100%. It's, 90 something. But if you don't have enough drives, then it might look like 100%.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I kind of when there's a new build, I ignore it until you have thousands of miles,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
I really only just look at the um, aggregated data, um, and I take everything else with a huge grain of salt until you have a lot more data submitted. It's just it's so new. This build is 12.5, 12.5.1 is so new. Tonight, I'm going to ask a couple of questions, maybe ask Chris Dirty Tesla to expand on his experience on 12.5. And I'm hoping to have Omar on next and get his views as well. And then AI driver, hopefully. Um, so, it's just one data point, one indication on top of all the videos that we see, all the posts that we see. But I find it useful, um, but give it some time for data to accumulate. Machine, how confident are you that you're going to win that bet versus lose that bet at this point? That FSD is going to have 99% of drives without a critical disengagement throughout September.
I'm honestly about 50-50. I'm not sure.
Wow.
I mean,
Really?
I'm
You still think
confident.
you still think there's a 50% chance you might win it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm confident that the
Wait, the bet is 99% without critical disengagement?
99% of drives without a critical disengagement for a
It's
month
already
by
doing
the end
that
of
today.
Q3,
It's already doing that
but
for me, yeah.
nationwide, not just for you or California, nationwide.
Well, I don't know obviously what others are experiencing, but I don't think it's really that different than California. So I think Machine's got this bet in the bag.
well, I
Well,
think the numbers so far. I mean, first of all, there's not enough data right now for
It
this latest
drives me
version.
nuts that people treat this as fact. We can look at the data, but let's not act like this is actually representative of the broader fleet.
Well, if Omar entered in his drives into there, we'd be at 100%,
I know. That's the thing. If I entered my
100,000
drives,
miles
it would
per
throw it off.
disengagement. It would
well,
already be Robotaxi.
Listen, California is already 100%. So Omar entering his data doesn't change a thing
It would
unless he
make it
goes
go
around.
down.
Yeah, exactly. Unless he goes around every state just so that machine wins this bet for the next 2 months, basically.
That's a good idea. Go do it.
Okay.
No,
I
I
just
was
want to
looking
say,
at this tracker and the number of miles, and I was like, I've literally driven more miles than are in this tracker single-handedly.
yeah, machine, do you know that moment? Have you ever fished? Do you fish?
Yeah, I mean, it's very boring.
Okay.
Sorry.
So when you fish, you get this fish, right? You catch it and then you pull it to the dry land, and it's not dead yet, and it kind of like flops around. When I hear you talk about this bet, that's what I'm seeing in your words. You're like flapping around because you know you're gonna die, but you're not dead yet. But it's okay. It's okay to lose a bet every now and then. I just want to say a thank you to the Genius for becoming a member in the YouTube channel. Like I said, for those of you who joined, I'm trying to build my YouTube channel. Every member helps. It communicates to the algorithm that you care about the channel, and that channel should be spread out and wide. I'm going to do an interview today with Dirty Tesla. We're going to cover a wide range of topics from FSD to robotaxis to Cybertruck to Optimus to Mars. And members will get a 1 week advanced look at that video. They can also join members on the live chats, and it's really supportive of the channel. It really helps me out. So you can do so at the top of your screens. All right, Uzi, Machine, go ahead.
You know, I at the contention here that I'm sure listeners would get upset with this, but I was thinking about making another graph, and I was thinking about not accident rates as reported by like Waymo, but what Tesla reports as their accident rates. I mean, he's already got his hand up. I barely even said anything yet, and Omar's ready to try to shut me down as usual. Tesla vehicles per Tesla, even if they're not running autopilot, Tesla claims their accident rate is about one accident every 1 million miles driven. And then if you add autopilot technology on top of that, it's almost 10 million miles per accident. And if this is truly the case, which it may be, then what is the argument for taking a Tesla driver and extracting them from the car and having it drive itself at a much lower rate of miles per accident? Even if FSD gets to 100,000 miles per accident, which I think would be kind of pretty good, like in just an absolute sense, maybe. If you compare it to a Tesla driver, it's still an order of magnitude or two more dangerous. So isn't Tesla trying to compare itself to its own drivers? And if so, it makes it even more challenging.
Omar?
Yeah, I think the people are really asking the wrong questions. Instead of just saying, okay, it's so far away from Robotaxi, it needs to get 10 times better, it needs to get 100 times better. It will, and it'll take time. That's obvious. What people should be charting is user satisfaction, FSD subscription conversions. That is what's going to tell you a story, because the customer doesn't care if it's what number of miles per intervention. That's not their experience. They care about how many scary moments they had. They care about how they felt, how, the hands-free driving was, how the comfort was. Little things that aren't tracked in miles per intervention. I mean, this desire to just boil it down to a single number is not really reflective of the reality, right? If you, for example, only drove 1 mile an hour or something and, just completely drove slow, braked every time you saw anything, you could have a very long number of miles per crash, but the user would not be satisfied. So, really, what people should focus on if they want to understand what's happening here and why it's going to be material to the business is user satisfaction and conversions into FSD purchases and subscriptions. This is getting to be a really essential product. And while there's tons and tons of work to go to get it to a place where you can remove the driver, it's getting to a place where it can now easily and regularly drive hours without intervention. So the human ability to discern between, let's say, 1,000 miles per intervention, which is about one intervention per month, compared to 5,000 miles per intervention or one intervention every 5 months, it is all kind of the same to them. Interventions kind of just become exceedingly rare. And if the software is improving, they may never experience it again, right? Like your average user is driving 10, 15 miles a day, maybe 30 miles a day if they've got a long commute. Even at 500 miles per intervention, most days it's just not making any mistakes. So their satisfaction will be very high. There may be issues, but they're getting so rare that many people won't experience them.
Machine.
I mean, this guy is an expert at avoiding the question. I mean, he's so good at politicking. I think he could beat greasy Gavin Newsom in a race. And I wouldn't be surprised if 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, this guy is actually running as a politician. I mean, why not? He's got like 400,000 followers already on X. Who knows what's going to happen? And he's greasy Gavin Newsom. I don't know who's rude. Christy Nome. I've never killed an animal. And I think Yaman's like Anthony Weiner, if you guys remember who that is.
All right.
I think it's really time for you to upgrade to Hardware 3. If you're going to be saying Hardware 3 is useless, you got to see what Hardware 3 is going to do.
Hey, Omar, did you guys set up a date with Dan O'Dodd?
No, Machine said he can't go to Santa Barbara for some reason. It's not that far away. I guess his wife won't let him, so I'll either have to go myself or, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I should have him on too on my YouTube channel, by the way. Maybe I will. Dallas.
Yeah, I had a quick question. So, like, referencing disengagements and interventions and stuff like that. I mean, I would say on a semi-regular basis, I'll intervene or disengage the system just because of something, mundane, like, oh, forgot, got to go back home, or stuff that doesn't mean the car did anything wrong. The driver just needed something different. How does the system differentiate those from actual disengagements?
Well, I mean, you're kind of getting into the reality of it, which is that this idea that there's like a miles per disengagement isn't really real. You can't really boil it down. There's a lot of complexity to it. So Tesla has ways of digging through the data to kind of figure out what happened. They can sample random events to try and sort of figure it out. They can use computer vision in many cases and other sort of data sources they have to try and guess. But that's the thing, is you don't know. A disengagement is completely subjective, right? So someone's going to take over if they thought maybe it was going to hit something, but was it actually going to hit something? Or did the user just think it was going to hit something? Did they just perceive it was going to hit something? So you want to differentiate between that. There's, the disengagement, and then there's actually saying that was a safety critical event, where if they hadn't taken over, that would have caused a crash. Then there's, people taking over because it's driving too slow. Somebody might take over just because it stops at a stop sign down to 0, which is actually what you're supposed to do legally. But again, it's a completely subjective thing. Then you might have, as the system gets better and gets more features, people use it more. For example, they're going to be shipping Smart Summon and Banish. People are going to be using it a lot more in parking lots. So on the surface, you might actually see miles per disengagement fall like a rock because there's all these new sort of parking lot issues. And you think, oh my God, the software is just completely failing. But in reality, it's gaining new functionality and you're seeing some of those issues pop up, but user satisfaction is actually greater. So data is not simple. You really have to understand the nuances of it. And honestly, it's kind of hard to do if you don't have hardware 3.
Hey, Omar, we have a warning from in the replies that says, no clue says, I do not trust Dan with Omar alone. Please send backup. And
Yeah,
all
I was
this time,
thinking,
all
no,
these years, the
me,
machine.
Machine, and Dan could
Yeah.
be a great little YouTube video because we've got the biggest FSD hater, the biggest FSD bull, and then a guy who's right in between who owns a Tesla, but is constantly sort of saying, well, they're really far away. So I think it'd be a great combo, but unfortunately, Machine's wife won't let him leave the house. Maybe we
Yeah.
can put a little Optimus in his place and put a wig on it, and she'll be fooled for a little while.
Yeah, but then when he comes back, she's gonna be disappointed. Machine.
Yeah, well, first of all, she might not notice the difference. She'd be like, wow, he was as emotionally available as you were. And I can't really, I mean, honestly, I made this excuse about my wife
Do you have
for work.
do you have an avoidant attachment style?
I maybe I do.
Do you know your attachment style? You don't know attachment styles? What kind of a man are
I
you?
haven't defined it, but I'm pretty sure I have that. And I would say, though, just big picture, I can't think of a worse way to spend a weekend than in a car, stuck in a car with Omar and Dan O'Dowd, just gabbing on. It just sounds horrible. I don't know why. Why would I do that to myself?
Well, we need you to protect Omar. If anything goes wrong,
What could go wrong? The
something.
car drives flawlessly.
Who
There's
knows?
no
Like,
mistakes.
listen, Omar is precious cargo. Okay, very valuable. We can't lose him.
Well, he is the
we need
next.
you've been lifting weights all your life for this moment, and when the opportunity arises to show off your muscles, you're not there.
Listen, I am here to protect the Atherton citizens, okay, who think I'm their bodyguard. Once Omar becomes governor of California, he can hire me. Absolutely.
Uzi.
What happened to Mr. Truth Seeking? Like, how are you going to square the circle if you're not going to, be the middleman on the FSD ride between the bull and the bear?
I'm just going to do it from the comfort of my own home behind the computer. I'll just watch the video and be an internet warrior.
Okay. Machine, how many miles between critical disengagements is needed, do you think, for Tesla Robotaxis to be approved? Because you've been saying, I think, tens of thousands. I don't know if that's true.
Well, so first of all, the person Dallas said, made a good point about interventions. They're not accidents. Certainly not critical. You have to at least look at only critical disengagements for sure. And then even that, of course, those aren't all accidents. And it's an interesting thought process to try to go about and think through what is that ratio between critical interventions and actually what would be an accident. Is it 1/3, 1/10, something like that? I don't know. But I don't think it's very, very small. I do think you could argue at least 1/10, 1 out of every 10 critical disengagements probably could have led to an accident. And the other problem with that.
Hold on. Just hold on. Let's kind of level set here. When I say critical disengagement, I don't mean what Tesla FSD tracker is showing. I literally mean if you didn't disengage, there would be an accident. Okay.
Okay, that.
Why that definition?
What that has to be, if you want to say you're going to be better than a human, that has to be at least 100,000 miles per, at least. And according to Tesla, for their drivers, it's closer to 1 million. Now, you could argue like Waymo. Waymo is not at that level, or I'm not sure. I mean, people keep saying Waymo says they're about 20,000 miles per intervention, but Waymo has an engineered system, a whole layer of assessing the uncertainty and stopping the vehicle and having a remote intervene, so that their actual true accident rate is still much lower, right, than that 20,000
Exactly.
miles. So if Tesla wants to do that, then they can, right? They could probably get the system up to 20,000 miles per, in theory, accident. But if they had a whole engineered layer to stop the vehicle and have a remote assistance
make a decision, then maybe they could scale that. But they're not there yet. They haven't done any of that work. So
I don't think Tesla would. I don't think Elon would do that because it's not scalable.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But I mean, people do argue, well, you can only have to hire
Okay,
one
but you
person
didn't answer
per.
my question. Listen, you're accusing Omar for not answering your questions, and you're dodging my questions. So the question is, how many miles between accident likely disengagements, like truly critical disengagements, does Tesla FSD need to get to before regulators nationwide would approve it for robotaxi service?
I don't know about regulators, but I just think from an insurance and accident cost standpoint, it's probably going to have to be 200,000 miles or more.
I actually think it's going to have to be 1 million plus. Omar, what do you think?
Well, according to NHTSA, humans get into an accident around every 650,000 miles or so. So, Waymo's test fleet is about 18,000 miles, and their driverless fleet is about 80,000 miles. So, for the driverless fleet, intervention is counted as someone had to go and get the car physically. So, someone actually had to go and rescue the car and get in it and drive it. So, that doesn't count remote interventions. So, it could be even, lower than 18,000. It could be really as little as maybe 12,000 miles. The really critical thing is safety critical interventions. You just have to make sure you don't hit anything. If you need to stop and you're confused and phone home for help, that's fine. You can do that. Just make sure the safety critical interventions are very, very, very low to, the point where it's not going to happen to the average car in a year, right? So, 20,000, I think, or 18,000 for Waymo's test fleet. I think that's the point at which you can start doing some limited deployments. So, I think right now on their latest builds, 12.5, 12.6, 12.7, they're probably at least 500 to 1,000 miles between critical intervention. So, maybe they need to get 10 to 100 times better to start doing driverless testing, which, it's a significant jump in performance, obviously, but it's not, 1,000 times better. And the way we've been seeing these models improve, it feels within reach.
Machine.
I just can't wait until some of the bulls come in and rationalize how Tesla is going to get to 600,000 miles per accident on hardware 3.
Danny.
Something to consider that could be really helpful is that every few years you have a lot more Teslas on the road with FSD. So the person looking for his lighter to light up his weed will be able to do so more easily in a Tesla with FSD and not crash into you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cars can get to 1 million or above. So they're going to be significantly safer than human. We're really talking about millions and millions of miles between crashes. Now, whether that's, AI 5 or AI 6 or hardware 3, I think hardware 3 will be able to get well above 600,000 miles for sure. I could see hardware 3 with the right software getting to over 1.2 million miles between crashes.
Machine.
God, it's just so egregious. It's like not
So
even
tell
worth
me, why
responding to.
can't it? Why can't hardware 3
Because
get to 1 million
no
miles between crashes?
deep learning model progress has shown the ability to basically compress the model by 10,000x, which is what would need to happen to get to that level of reliability with the same model size as we have now.
I don't know. I mean, just look at the rate of progress on the 12 series. This is the second 12 build. It's now 5 times larger in parameter count than before. You look at these other small models that are continuing to improve. You think about the discoveries we haven't made, the increasing compute power, the fact that the chips keep getting faster and faster, and the data centers keep getting bigger and bigger. I think it's possible, and I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, so these are the things I'm going to dig into on a one-on-one basis on the YouTube channel, starting with Dirty Tesla, the link to which is at the top of your screens. Reply to the tweet at the top, please, with what I should ask Chris, Dirty Tesla, what you would like to know. And I also pinned at the top the spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet that I will use to guide the conversation with each one of my one-on-one interviews on the YouTube channel. And this spreadsheet is accessible by everybody. It's viewable, so you can view it. It's open to public. And I'm going to have one spreadsheet per person. And we're going to track predictions, forecasts, update them over time with those one-on-one interviews. Machine, did I hear you say that, yes, you will join me? Machine?
What? Me?
Yeah. Are you going to come to my channel
I
for a
don't know.
one-on-one interview? Come on.
Maybe some point. Sure.
Wow, are you afraid of people using... Are you in the shower?
No, I'm cooking eggs. Sorry.
Okay. You just having breakfast at noon?
No, I'm making a sandwich for later. I gotta go somewhere.
Okay. All right. Uzi, did you see that I have a tab for you too?
So pleased to see
Your connection is bad. All right. Hey, Omar. Okay, Danny.
I just read today that Blue Cruise is becoming legal in Europe, but their use case, they're really narrow. It's like some highways, somewhere in the cities. So maybe it could help the way for Tesla to get there. But do you think Tesla should should over optimize some cities and the highways between the cities?
I mean, maybe eventually they might do that, but I don't know.
But to launch faster.
Yeah, I don't know. Omar, what do you think? Do you think Tesla should go city by city for Robotaxi rollouts?
I mean, they don't need to. The software already works everywhere. So if there were certain cities that wanted to approve it first, they could, but it's not dependent on HD mapping like Blue Cruise is. So Elon commented on my post today. I said, oh, this is good. If they've got hands-free Blue Cruise on highways approved, then they should be able to approve hands-free FSD in Europe as well. So I think that's a positive sign. Blue Cruise requires the highway to be pre-mapped to work. Tesla doesn't require that. It should just work on any highway. And I haven't seen any requirement in European regulations that you need to be pre-mapped on the highway to do hands-free. That's just a technical restriction of how Blue Cruise works.
Danny?
But Blue Cruise doesn't like where it works well. It works almost nowhere, but it works probably more miles per disengagement compared to FSD in cities, right? So that's why I'm saying like maybe Tesla could
No,
over.
FSD has more miles per disengagement than Blue Cruise, even in the pre-mapped areas. Blue Cruise is actually pretty bad. They can't even handle a curve in the road. If the road is too curved, you have to take over. So even with pre-mapping, it's significantly worse than autopilot.
Yeah, but Tesla would allow FSD in the cities. So where Blue Cruise works, it's piece of cake for Tesla, right? So do you think Tesla should work where it's a piece of cake, like nail city by city, over optimize the model city by city, and open up like that? Because I think regulators want to see like something that's piece of cake.
Did everything Elon has ever said. They do not want to do local optimization of any sort of model. This needs to be scalable. None of the companies that went that route are profitable, or they don't even have a path to profitability or scalability. So why adopt a failing business model?
No, I'm not saying like, no, I'm saying with AI still, but they just take all the data from Germany and they build a model that's mostly, that's good for Germany, for example.
I don't think you get it. The model they've trained, which includes data from all over the world, works anywhere in the world. They've given demos in Germany on city streets, and the regulators posted on LinkedIn and said that it drove them through German streets, handled roundabouts without a single intervention. And that was an old version of the software.
All right, thank you. We have other hands, so we're going to move on. And before I do that, Ross Lepage, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Ross Lepage on YouTube became a member. So we added 2 new members to the YouTube channel today. This is extremely helpful in bringing visibility to the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel has to get to tens of thousands of subscribers, and members really help that out. It communicates to YouTube and others that you value the content that Tesla Live brings to the table. And so I really appreciate new members. New members will also get 1 to 2 weeks advance access to the one-on-one interviews that I do with influencers and others as well. We're starting with Dirty Tesla tonight. This link is at the top of your screens. Dallas?
Yaman, do you foresee a future where Tesla parts ways with Google for their mapping data? I mean, and again, I'm not saying mapping like we were just talking about in the previous conversation, but I know there's been map issues in the past that's caused lane selection issues and stuff like that. Do you foresee them going another route, taking that in-house? Is Google going to turn that around? What do you think?
I think Tesla has enough vehicles on the roads and surrounded by cameras to build their own map and not rely on anybody else to do that work. Omar, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. So there's 2 parts to the map. There's sort of the map data they use internally, which is compiled from a bunch of sources, some of it crowdsourced, some of it from TomTom. That map pack is downloaded to your vehicle so it can be accessed even when your vehicle doesn't have internet. And that's not from Google Maps. Google Maps just provides the map tiles, which is to say what you see on the screen, and they also provide the search. So those pieces are provided by Google Maps or Baidu Maps if you're in China, but the actual map data that FSD is using and that is downloaded to your car is prepared by Tesla. Lately, it does seem they're expanding a lot more in terms of their mapping functionality. And it seems like maybe a lot of the performance upgrades that we've seen to FSD have been a result of this sort of richer map data. You can see in the visualization that there's stuff in there that seems to be beyond what the cameras can see.
Thank you. Luce?
So I think maybe it's the case for Danny in this case. I think many thinks that Tesla have to basically adapt FSD zone by zone because they see FSD performing differently in different states in America. But I think when Tesla optimizes FSD for a zone, they just basically they just make the map data more correct, and that's all. So and when FSD will be ready, I think the car has to be able to read the sign by itself. So I think there is no reason to optimize to release it zone by zone.
Okay, thank you, Luce. Joseph Smith, go ahead.
Thanks. I wanted to comment on what was said just a second ago about training something specifically, say, on Germany. If you have any experience training AI models like large language model, one of the things that you find is training on specific data sets alone makes a really crappy model. You really have to train on a wide variety of things to have a good large language model. And one of the ways that you could say see this is there are people who, for example, train large language models on, say, specifically math data, and yet something like GPT-4 will still beat those models trained on math data on math problems. It's one of those things where there is so much information encoded in more general stuff. So I'm just saying, I think you could train a model all day long on Germany, and it will not perform as well in Germany as if you are training it on various situations around the world. Like that's still going to do better specifically in Germany. That's just how AI models work. And the other thing that I will just say, I think this is a reason to think that FSD has a lot of room to improve, because we have not trained, well, I should say Tesla. Tesla has not trained FSD all over Europe and all over South America and all over Asia like they have North America. And so just the quality of being able to train on more general data sets is going to be really good.
Thank you. We have a couple of hands. We're going to continue with this topic, but before we do so, I want to say thank you to Alex Beltran and Ben Pena for becoming members to my YouTube channel. This is extremely helpful. We now added 4 members to the YouTube channel today. This is really, really awesome. YouTube members get early access to the one-on-one interviews. That's going to start with Dirty Tesla Chris. The link is at the top of your screens. We need to get the YouTube channel to tens of thousands of subscribers and hundreds of members for TSLA Live to be financially sustainable. Let's continue with Brandon.
Do you think it would benefit Tesla to create their own like solo map that's not powered by Google, that like just anyone could download, not just Tesla users, but literally anybody? You can connect it to your car or your phone. And then do you think they could integrate that with, let's say, like when Robotaxi comes out and they have that all in the app? Maybe you could just set up your, like, let's say you want to get a plane ticket. You go into the Tesla app, you see all the different airlines, then you automatically can get like a Robotaxi to take you to your airport or a train or whatever it might be. Just find the best route for the cheapest amount of money, and then anybody could use that.
Thank you, Brandon. Danny?
Yeah, I agree with you guys that the best approach is to create a very large model, a foundation model, train on that data from everywhere. What I was saying is leaving some space, for example, to fine tune a ton in Germany. And then even hardware 3 could, like you create the biggest model that hardware 3 can support, and then leave some space for fine tuning of Germany only, and then take it from there, basically.
Okay, I want to get Omar's comments on this, but another thank you to the Musker plan for becoming a member to the YouTube channel. We are on a roll this episode. This is the most members we've ever added in one day to the YouTube channel. The link is at the top of your screens. Thank you very much, everybody. Alex Beltran, Ben Pena, the Musker plan, Russ Lepage, and the Genius. Thank you very much. And we have a second sponsor in the works as well for the, oh my gosh, one more. The Real Zyrtec just added as a new member. Yeah, so for those of you who haven't been able to support the space because you don't want to, because you find the subscription on X to be expensive, and I can't change that, a good alternative is to become a member on YouTube. It's $2.99 a month, and it pushes the channel to others. So it brings visibility to the channel. So I really appreciate that. Omar, what do you think about what Luce, Joseph, and Danny said about training FSD in certain countries?
Yeah, I think they nailed it. It's funny to hear kind of all these ideas that people have about how these models should be trained. But you, if you showed the model only images of the United States and you showed it how to make a turn, then it might be saying, okay, you don't tell the model how to solve the problem. You don't tell it how to find the solution. You just give it the input and the output through the labels, and you say, sort of discover the algorithm to make this happen. And let's say you only trained it on the US, it might say, for example, okay, I have to follow this curb here. This curb is really a function of how I should make this turn. And maybe within the US data set, the curbs are pretty consistent. They're conforming to, for example, US standards of how roads should be built. But then you go to some town in the US where the curbs don't conform to that standard for whatever reason. They're off or a piece of it's missing or whatever. And now your car has a safety critical issue because, unbeknownst to you, it was sort of overfitting on using the curb to figure out its trajectory. Now, if you were to show it different examples from places all around the world, examples from places where they had roads with no curb, maybe there's just dirt on the side of the road, and other examples, other road designs, other standards, then the model learns not to overfit to some arbitrary detail that's present within the data set, but really to learn sort of the raw physics, to look at the shape of the road surface itself, the other cars, and you actually train a model that works better not only in Europe and not just in the United States, but it's actually just more intelligent around the world because it's seen more examples from around the world. And really what ultimately matters is just the physics. Like, I've seen examples recently with 12 where it's just been jam-packed traffic and everybody's trying to turn left and it's kind of pandemonium. People are cutting through, they're kind of in the lane lines, but kind of not. And, someone's trying to get in, someone's trying to get out. It's very kind of messy and it doesn't just correspond to staying in one lane, right? There may be someone kind of jumping into the lane, so you need to move over to the left. And it's become very good at handling situations like that where the road rules go out the window and it's just the laws of physics keeping you safe, right? And that's really what you want the model to learn. You want it to learn the underlying physics of the world and of driving and not overfit to some of the local details.
Thank you very much. And a quick word of thank you to two more people just joined. David Bollner and Matthew Ward became members to the YouTube channel. The link to go straight to the membership for $2.99 a month to support Tesla Live is at the top of your screens. Joseph.
Yeah, just to add on, Omar talked about the physics. That's exactly the point of why you need the general stuff. He talked about overfitting. I just want to emphasize, if you give it too few examples, in some sense, it's not understanding what's happening. It's just memorizing. AI models memorize in the beginning, but after you show them more and more general data, they realize to improve, they can't just memorize anymore. They have to actually understand the physics of what's going on. And so, yes, as Tesla rolls this out to bigger than the North America, places in the model that may have been secretly just memorizing things it's seen are going to have to transition to understanding the physics.
Exactly. You want it to generalize, not memorize.
All right. Let's switch gears. Omar, GM, General Motors. Apparently they had started building the Origin before they pulled the plug on it. And they tooled up a production line and they were ready to scale. And they had built dozens and dozens of them. There are now pictures of Origins next to a GM factory out there. And they pulled the plug and they had to recognize a $600 million charge to write it off. I mean, the amount of money GM lost in Cruise is absurd. I mean, we're talking probably closer to definitely more than $10 billion when everything's said and done over the years. and maybe even closer to $20 billion. And Mary Barra blamed regulatory uncertainty. Mary Barra said they need legislative change for Cruise to become legal, and that's why they're stopping it. What do you think about that? Those comments, Elon also replied and said something like they couldn't figure it out. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's funny when you look at some of these automaker statements, right? Everybody makes fun of Elon for saying, "Oh, we're going to have robotaxis in 2020." But then you look at some of these other automakers and what they were saying. I mean, just one day before they got shut down, Cruise was talking about how they were going to expand. Ford was supposed to launch an autonomous service in 2021. When they were unable to do it, they said it was because of the pandemic. They said, "We're delaying our robotaxi service until next year because of the pandemic." Nissan, they said they were going to have autonomous cars out by 2022. All of them failed. The only one that's actually put out a product to customers is Tesla. Yet they get made fun of the most because they're actually doing something as compared to the others that just made a lot of empty promises. I think, Kyle from Cruise had a really funny post here on X about it. He said, GM is like this company that keeps discovering the future and then fumbling the ball. They were the first to EVs with the EV1. They fumbled it. Then they had the situation with Cruise. They acquired Cruise early and they obviously blew it. They lost their permit in California. Now, the Cruise Origin vehicle, which was supposed to be their driverless vehicle without controls, would have required a special exemption from NHTSA to get on the road, given that it doesn't have manual control. So it's not really legal to sell a car without controls. You need a special exemption from NHTSA. And I'm actually not aware of any exemptions they've granted yet. So, given the track record of their technology and how the permit was pulled in California, and especially how they lied to regulators about it, GM probably realized, yeah, the chance of us ever getting this exemption is very slim. And so the $600 million we invested in this production of this vehicle is going to have to be a write down. So it's not really surprising. I mean, Silicon Valley is littered with the graves of self driving car companies that never panned out, that just ran out of money or their technology was just a failure. If you remember that Navigant research chart where they have all the companies that are in the self-driving race, and of course Tesla's the last in the race, you go look at that chart over the years, look at the chart they put out every year, and you can see those companies just start dropping off like flies one by one. And of course Tesla's always still at the end, but the rest of them are gone.
Thank you. What do you think about Zoox in general? Zoox is always listed with companies that are ahead on the path to autonomy. They are mentioned in the same breath with Tesla and Waymo, from what I hear.
Yeah, Zoox is owned by Amazon. It seems like their technology is far behind and the business has no future. There's been a lot of turmoil with the founder leaving and that type of thing. They just don't seem to be going anywhere. They haven't
Okay,
had
so
any
you're
real
saying
deployments.
they're closer to Cruise than Waymo. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, they're
Okay.
behind Cruise.
They're behind Cruise. Okay, interesting. Well, that's not good. I'm surprised that to hear their name mentioned so often. I mean, Waymo also had, do you remember, was it last year or the year before, they had a change of leadership at the top?
They did. I believe John Krafchick, the CEO of Jaguar, was leading the company, or the former CEO of Jaguar. He didn't strike me as a great leader for the company, coming from the legacy auto side. And now they have a co-CEO situation with some African American woman. Her name is Taekwon something, or I'm probably butchering that really badly. And then Dimitri something. He's the sort of technical co-CEO. So, in my experience, companies with co-CEOs are rarely managed all that well, right? It's kind of like, okay, who's setting the priorities for this organization? Who's really pushing things? But that's the structure they've had, and they have continued to expand under that co-CEO structure.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we discussed GM, Cruise. Automakers are announcing their results. Stellantis revenue went down by 10%. Operating profit went down by 40%. Nissan is break even. A couple others also announced bad results. Stellantis is now cutting production, especially in North America. I wonder why. Maybe because of Cybertruck, who knows? And they said they are ready to dump brands that are not performing in terms of profitability. So these legacy automakers are starting to shrink quite a bit. Luce?
Toyota having some pretty tough troubles too with certifications that were done improperly, and they had to stop the sale of a number of vehicles, leading to a big dip in June sales.
Exactly. Before we go to Luce, I want to say a thank you to Joel Karenin. Joel Karenin, thank you for becoming a member on the YouTube channel. I believe we're up to 6 members now. If you'd like to join them, you can do so through the link at the top of your screens. Members on YouTube will get early access to one-on-one interviews. They will get access to members-only chats, and it supports TSLA Live. If you couldn't do so because I haven't been able to reduce my subscription amount on X, a good alternative is to become a member on YouTube. The link is at the top of your screens. Luce, go ahead.
So, guys, you may know that Stellantis is the partnership of Fiat and Renault, right? And basically, this happened a few years ago, and basically, Fiat totally removed itself from Italy, in which it was originally established. And with time, not only they didn't manufacture in Italy at all, they even stopped and fired all the design teams that were in Italy, and they were totally in France or whatever they are doing, wherever they are now. So when I read that Stellantis is doing really bad, because they are, I'm quite happy about it. They are really trash, in my opinion.
Thank you, Luce. Luce chiming in from Italy. I love it. By the way, the Musker plan is apparently Eli. He just let me know in live chat. Thank you, Eli. Great supporter of the space. We have 2 more members. Wow. Nordic Prospecting and John Uckman. This is awesome. Thank you very much, everybody. I think we're up to about 8 or 9 new members now. I lost count. Thank you very much. Joseph, I see you have another question going back to NVIDIA discussion. Let's touch on that. Why don't you ask your question first?
Thank you. So going back to Omar referencing, he felt that he gave a good description of why NVIDIA is sort of above ahead of AMD. He felt that AMD might be able to catch up long term. I'm actually going to disagree with that. AMD's been trying to catch up for NVIDIA for over a decade. It's like Google Android trying to catch the iPhone. Like, it just never seems to happen. So my question is this. Where do we think the Dojo software or hardware is going? And do we think Dojo may be able to actually be able to catch NVIDIA in a world where AMD, despite years of trying, has just never been able to do so?
Omar?
Yeah, I think that Nvidia has an extremely talented team, and they've been able to stay ahead of everyone else. So their rate of improvement has been the best in the industry. And I don't necessarily see that changing. So it would probably be a safe default assumption to assume that they remain the best in AI training chips and high performance computing, accelerated computing, as they call it. But the AI boom has attracted a ton of capital to the semiconductor and chip making sector. So there's really, billions of dollars on the line when somebody has a 76% gross margin on a $40,000 product. It's like putting a big fat target on your head. And every company wants a piece of that pie, and every Nvidia customer would love a solution to lessen their dependence on Nvidia. So I don't know if it's going to be AMD, or maybe it's going to be Dojo, or maybe it's going to be some Microsoft chip, or maybe it's going to be some company we haven't even heard of. Maybe some company like Grok, a startup that, not necessarily wipes Nvidia off the map, but takes 5%, 10% of the market. I think that we could be heading to a future where it's a lot more of it's a lot less concentrated. The market is a lot less concentrated in Nvidia's hands. I think that people are working hard on reducing and removing technical barriers to allowing their training tasks to run on other hardware. And just the massive run up in Nvidia stock and all the attention has drawn a ton of capital into this space. So, given the rewards for succeeding in this market, many people will try. And while I don't think they'll necessarily unseat Nvidia, I think all of this is just slowly chipping away at their moat. And the market will balance. A market that is so heavily, you know, dominated by one company is not really a market that's in balance. And I think that, having them take 50% of the share of the data center market or less would probably be more of what I would expect long term.
Thank you, Omar. We have new members on the YouTube channel. This has been an amazing day. I think we're up to about 10 new members on the YouTube channel today. Darius Wachowski and Sean. Thank you very much for both of you. This is on your screens as well. And Nordic says funding secured. And Chris Ann is asking for a member party. So maybe we'll have a members only party on YouTube. The link to join YouTube channel as a member is at the top of your screens. As a subscriber, which is free, is also at the top of your screens. The members are only $2.99 a month. So if you haven't been able to do it on X, this is a good alternative. Machine is back. Is like Yaman 7. Danny Pell just joined as a new member. 11 new members now. Thank you, Danny. Danny, that's you, right? Yeah, there you go. Machine is like Yaman's having too much success with his YouTube channel. I needed to stop it, so he's back to do that. So I'm not going to accept his request to speak. He can't listen to Omar talk about FSD and how good the hardware 3 is going to be. All right. Oh, Omar, so we're an hour and a half into it. I want to kind of talk about Galley's tweet at Elon about political posts. What do you think of Galley's post? It was a long one. And then Elon responded, I hear you. What are your thoughts on the matter?
Well, I mean, he said what everybody else has been thinking and saying for the last few years, right? Elon, shut up. I'm tired of this, you know? But the guy is Elon Musk. he can actually move world policy just by tweeting about it, right? And I think he's gotten into kind of this beef with the Democrats where he feels like for him personally and for his businesses, he has to kind of get him out. And that's turned him into, very partisan person. I think of like intelligent people as not being partisan. They realize that both parties are actually idiots and none of them are going to completely do 100% of what they say. But, he's Elon, he's going to tweet, and I don't really see that changing. As much as he says, I hear you, now he's saying he's going to go get in a fist fight with the Venezuelan prime minister. So people will continue to cry about it, and Elon will continue to tweet. And as long as I follow this guy, there have been controversies about the things he's been tweeting. There was funding secured. There was when he called that British cave driver pedo guy, and then he sued them, and there was the whole trial. There's always drama around this. If you think Elon is suddenly going to become some normal guy, don't hold your breath, okay? Ultimately, nobody cares about your politics when you bring autonomy to market for the lowest cost per mile of anybody else and you're actually able to scale it and people's lives start getting saved and they save time. Nobody's going to say, screw you, Elon, I'm driving manually because of your tweets. People forget things, okay? They always think this is the biggest thing in the world. And, you look at like 2016, everyone hated Mark Zuckerberg. They said, you're the reason we have Donald Trump. And then they got over it. Now they're like, oh, Mark Zuckerberg's so cool. Look, he, is doing whatever he's doing.
He
And
did threads. I mean, everybody who hated Zuckerberg for bringing Trump basically as a president, Zuckerberg did threads, and all of those haters are now on threads, hating on Elon now. It's ridiculous
exactly.
how quickly they changed. It's amazing, like
Yeah.
Zuckerberg became their savior. How
Yeah.
crazy is that?
So people are very fickle. They think, oh my God, this is the end of the world. This is over. When in reality, we're a global company. We sell all over the world. You think the people in China care what Elon's saying? You think they're super offended? No. Okay. So the amount of time people spend crying about this, it's because Elon's like their personal hero. Oh my God, he's so great. He's so democratic. He's fighting climate change. And, now to hear him like support the other guy, it's like, they saw Santa Claus come in and take a dump on their carpet, right? They're like so offended by it. But, I mean, he changed his mind before. Who knows what he's going to say in the future? A couple years ago, he was saying, hey, Trump's too old to run. He's going to be like, you know, 82 or something at the end of his term. I don't want someone who's so polarizing. So, he's going to say whatever he's going to say. It doesn't mean necessarily you have to agree with everything that he says, but the engineering achievements of his companies are just too much to ignore, right? I mean, Starship, the biggest rocket ever, FSD, the most widely deployed self-driving software ever, really the best performing out there. These are incredible engineering achievements, and that's the only reason we're talking about this guy's politics. If he did not have these incredible engineering achievements that he was pushing, nobody would care what he thought, right? So, this is just kind of comes with the territory of being the wealthiest and most powerful person in the world. In so many ways, Tesla's just kind of become a victim of its own success. So hopefully Elon can calm down eventually, but I'm not holding my breath. Elon's going to be Elon.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was my follow-up question to you. That if you think this is going to change anything, and I think you answered it already at length. I want to thank Henny Ludick for becoming a member to the YouTube channel. Now we're up to 15 new members today alone, which is amazing. Way beyond my expectations. Really thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for supporting TSLA Live so that we can hear machines nonsense every single day, broadcasted to 10,000 people yesterday. Machine, go ahead.
I'm one of these people who tries to stay unbiased in terms of investments. Like, these people for years hated Musk. They were jealous and they consequently downgraded Tesla, and then they shorted it and they lost money and all that. And I just didn't care. And I still don't care from an investment standpoint, his personal views. What I do care about is two things. One, from a company perspective, is his views, or are his views actually affecting demand for the product? And the last few years I've said I don't actually see it, because I think a lot of the trends were due to macro effects and EV demand in general. You would see it in other brands as well. But I don't know. Now I'm kind of like, it's getting to the point where some of the things are so egregious that I'm wondering if some of these drops in prices recently are due to his antics. I don't know. It's hard to prove that out, but I'm willing to think about it. And then as a personal note, if I was just looking at this person, just like I looked at any of my friends or you two people and you people on this board, if you went around espousing how important getting the truth out was, you were going to buy a social media company to make sure everything's free market, truth is important, talking about the dangers of AI and all this, and then you're going around and retweeting, not only retweeting videos that have been edited and aren't clear on their intent, but you actually consciously strip out the quote parody icon that tells you that it's a parody, then I think you're a big fat hypocrite. And Mark Zuckerberg might be a hypocrite, but he's not fat.
All right. So you feel very strongly about this topic, like you feel about every single topic. Justin Streich asked, who's been a member. Question to all new members in YouTube live chat. How long have you been listening to TSLA live? That's a good question. Please, all new members and really everybody else, please let me know in the comments how long you've been listening to TSLA live. We added 15 new members today. Amazing day. Omar and now Luce.
Yeah, I think it's easy to say, hey, look, sales are not growing as fast as they were. In some cases, the last couple quarters, they've been down year over year. This is because of Elon. He's turning people off. But I think really when you just look at the market, Elon called it an EV hangover. There's something pretty incredible happening in the market here. And here in California, we're seeing a ton of Teslas, but a ton of other EVs as well. And they're just sort of being dumped onto the market because they have them and they don't know what to do with them. And they're just trying to get rid of them. I was just at the mall the other day and I saw Machine's favorite company, VinFast, and there were all these VinFast cars in the parking lot. Okay. VinFast VF8 retails for about $47,000, $2,000 more than the base Model Y. And they had a ad in the window, lease a VinFast VF8 starting at $250 a month. What's the price to lease a Model Y, which is actually $2,000 less for the car? It's $500 a month with $1,000 more down than the VinFast offer. Similarly, Toyota BZ4X. You may remember this as the EV Toyota begrudgingly put out that got recalled because its wheels were falling off. Surely nobody would be buying this EV where the wheels are falling off, right? Well, actually, it was one of the best-selling EVs in California and in the United States. Why? Because Toyota needs to get rid of them. They're piled up on the lots. So these companies are just making insane offers that are way cheaper than, way lower monthly payment, at least on the surface, of what you can get with a Tesla. Now, obviously, a Tesla is way better. Most people still are choosing to get a Tesla rather than these other EVs. They're smart enough that they know there's a reason they're being discounted, and they're paying in many cases a lot more to drive a Tesla. But if you're somebody who is pissed off by Elon's tweets, if you're on the fence, and then you're seeing that Toyota's giving you a monthly payment that's half of what the Tesla monthly payment is, are you going to go and necessarily pay twice as much for a Tesla if you're mad at Elon Musk? You're probably less likely to. So there may be some effect there, but I think it's mostly just economics. A lot of these EVs are just being dumped onto the market at insanely low prices, but as Elon said, it's not really a sustainable situation. In many cases, you've already seen these automakers announce that they're ramping down EV production, they're scaling back some of their production goals. And as this inventory becomes liquidated, you'd probably not see this type of price dumping or EV hangover, as Elon called it, continue.
Yeah, there's also some news that VinFast is restating financial statements and told people to, Machine, did you hear that? Told people to told investors not to rely on historical financial statements. But we actually have really big news, Machine. We have really big news. We have a new member. Machine's mom just became a member to my YouTube channel, and she also sent a kiss. And that kiss is on your screens if you're watching this on YouTube. And you can reach that at the top of our screens. Machine's mom became a member to the YouTube channel. Huge news. And she also sent me a kiss. Amazing. Omar?
One more example I wanted to add is Fisker. I was just reading an article about Fisker's bankruptcy proceedings today. And Fisker obviously has run out of money. They're struggling to pay for things. They're now in bankruptcy court. And they have all of these vehicles that they actually can't sell because there's been several serious recalls that need to be fixed. So they need to go out of their way to fix the water pumps, fix other stuff on all of these cars before they sell them. And they're selling them at deeply discounted prices to move them as fast as possible so that they can start to repay some of the creditors in the bankruptcy. So all of these sorts of things are creating a situation where you can buy a really cheap EV. And it may be making Tesla's profitability look a little bit worse than it's actually going to be long term.
Finflexity.
Yeah, so just I had some news about Tesla's manufacturing plant in India. It came out yesterday. If you guys wanted to cover it, I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. By the way, the Fed announced its decision to keep rates the same. And I just want to read Nick T's take on it real quick. Nick Timmeros does a good summary. FOMC holds rates steady. No explicit signal of a September rate cut, but some very meaningful changes in the top of the statement. The dual mandate is back. Inflation has been downgraded from elevated to somewhat elevated. The Fed didn't commit to anything, but it left the door open plenty-wide for a September cut. Machine, any initial takes on this?
No, but sounds dovish.
Do you think there will be a September cut?
I honestly don't know. The market's pricing it though. I think it's up to 80%.
Yeah, the market is definitely pricing it. Tesla is up 4% still, so not much of a change. Overall markets ticked up a little bit. Nvidia is up 12%, Meta is up 2%, AMD is up 4%. So no major change across the markets for now. I'm going to review the earnings call, etc., and then publish an article for patrons, value patrons that get macro articles, macro updates, and then we can discuss it more tomorrow. We also have a new member again on YouTube, Scott2. Scott2, thank you very much, Scott, for becoming a member. We're up to 17 new members today. Thank you very much, everybody. Finflexity, and then Hawaii.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I doubt a September cut right now, despite the fact that inflation seems to be easing overall. I just think that the Fed, to remain a neutral stance away from politics, they would much rather opt for a November cut, just based on politics alone. But if inflation eases over the next month, then a September cut should probably be in the 100% range.
Why?
When it comes to auto sales for Tesla, Elon said something about, in reply to somebody, about not even realizing people have no idea about FSD. I think that people really do have no idea about FSD, and that it could be their vehicle, be put in a fleet and be a money printer for them. And when they really understand that, things are going to change.
Danny.
There's a saying that says, if you try to please everybody, you'll please no one, really, something like this. So when people say that Elon, his political views and stuff lead to less sales, this is speculation. It could be more sales.
I mean, there's no question that political comments have led to very strong feelings on the liberal side, on the left side, and I mean, even Gala said that as well in his post. So especially I didn't realize when this first started at the end of 2022, I didn't realize the entire European continent is as liberal as California. So I think there's some impact on sales in Europe as well. But, I'm not saying one way or another. I actually think that in general, smart people should, I think, get somewhat involved in politics, because if they don't, we end up with 80-plus-year-olds trying to, that question in a Senate hearing was asked to Mark Zuckerberg. So how do you make money after this is 2 years ago, after they've been around for 20 years, Machine?
Just to Denny's point that Musk might be getting more people to buy EVs from the conservative side, that's in theory a good point. The problem is that the conservative side is still deeply entrenched in buying ICE vehicles, so much so that their presidential candidate is espousing real FUD about EVs, and they're cheering it along, repealing EV mandates, etc. This is what this part of the population still believes, at least relative to the liberal population. So it may be a good play long term, but short term, it's going to end up reducing demand in aggregate, at least in terms of listing price that people are willing to buy it for. I don't see conservatives jumping out the door to buy EVs. Some will, but I don't think it will replace the lost liberals. I'm not saying that's better or worse. I'm just trying to assess the effects of this damage that he's wrought on Tesla demand, possibly.
Yeah, but Omar is right. When you have pure EVs, robotaxiable pure EVs around the world, this is not going to matter. The people who are hating on Elon today are going to ride on Tesla robotaxis. There's no question about it. Just like the people that were hating on Mark Zuckerberg are now flocking to Threads to hate on Elon. All right. So make no mistake, that future is coming. And thank you, Emmanuel Huna, for becoming a member. We now have 18 new members on YouTube channel today, 2 away from 20. So if you want to make it to 20, The link is at the top of your screens to become a new member. New members get advanced access to one-on-one interviews that I'm starting tonight with Dirty Tesla, Chris. This is also at the top of your screens. Machine?
I lost my train of thought, but I agree that Robotaxi won't matter. People going to use these things for car rides, they're not going to care. They're too drunk anyways. They're going to get in one and I'm be like, I'm wasted here in downtown San Francisco. There's a horde of homeless people on the street. No, that's a Tesla. No, let's wait for the Waymo. No, it's not going to happen. Okay, they're going to get in right away, lock the door,
Exactly.
and get us out of San Francisco as soon as possible.
Okay. I mean, if you hate San Francisco so much, just come to Texas. Move to Texas. Austin, Texas is the place to be.
It sounds even worse. Maybe there's less homeless people.
It's amazing.
But then
Austin,
you have to look
Texas
around
is amazing.
the hordes
Amazing.
of
You like
obese people around the corner. Quick, get in the car before they come eat your McDonald's.
No. There's no. You clearly haven't been to Austin, Texas. Everybody's so fit. Just imagine everybody as good looking as you are, machine. If you can imagine that, and everybody's very smart. Lots of founders, entrepreneur mindsets in Austin, Texas. Highly recommended. Also, if you like music festivals, at the end of September, beginning of October, there is the Austin City Limits, which I highly recommend. All right. I am running low on sugar, I think. And I need to get ready for my interview with Chris, Dirty Tesla tonight. Link is at the top of our screens. It's going to be the first one-on-one interview. Next, I hope to have Omar and the regular speakers in TSLA Live are all welcome to join me for one-on-one interviews. And I have a system in place. We're going to go through FSD, Robotaxi, Cybertruck, Optimus, and even Mars predictions. Highly recommend watching these interviews. The link is at the top. How are you?
Machine's mom just posted that she's moving to Austin.
That will make things easier. Complexity.
Yeah, can we just cover the news from India first, if you don't mind?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so basically yesterday a local newspaper in India came out with an article that the government sources that he talked to were saying that Tesla's investment plans for there have been put on the back burner for right now. Basically happened after the April postponement of Elon Musk's India visit. So additionally, they basically covered which states it is likely that they will start a plant. And based on the current range, they are saying that Tesla, like always, is trying most for subsidies. And on the basis of that, they're saying that maybe construction should start by the mid of next year or maybe the end of this year. So, there hasn't been much talk for the last 3 months, but they still expect it to start in 2025.
Edward.
Yeah, hey, Yaman. I was under the impression that India plant was going to be a battery manufacturing plant,
that's
most
here,
likely,
Edward.
and not. Can you hear me?
Okay, I'll be back.
Can you hear me? Oh, sorry. I was under the impression the India plant would be a battery manufacturing plant potentially, and not an automotive plant. Is that correct? Does anybody know?
Complexity.
No, the India plant is definitely going to be a car plant based on the request that Tesla made to the government. And to be honest, it seems like they're probably targeting a vehicle in the low-cost model range of approximately $20,000 to $25,000. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. Last few minutes. Omar, what do you think I should ask Chris tonight when I'm interviewing him?
I don't know. Ask him. He's been an FSD tester since the beginning. So
He's
maybe
also a
just ask.
Cybertruck owner too.
Yeah, ask him about the Cybertruck. Ask him about the early days of FSD testing and how it compares to now. Ask him about living in rural Michigan versus California. He's been to California and driven with me, but he also spends most of his time in Michigan. So that could be a good question to ask him, like how different is it really? He's a pretty good FSD expert. He's put in as many miles as anyone over the years. So that'll be a great interview.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to ask those questions. Machine, what do you think?
I'm sorry, I'm totally distracted by the fact that Maduro has accepted Elon's request for a public fight. And I just think there is a non-zero probability that the CEO, something goes very wrong at some point in the next few years. I'm not predicting it. I'm just saying this is like Idiocracy, the movie, now playing out in real life. We have CEOs fighting presidents of third world countries. I don't know what to think anymore. Is this real life?
It's been a lot of fun. Welcome to X.
That's what we call $1 billion in free publicity.
Exactly. Teslas are going to sell like hotcakes in Venezuela. Machine. You ready? Oh, did you guys hear about BYD's deal with Uber? What's that about, Omar?
Seems like a fleet sales deal.
And Elon, yeah, I guess so. And Elon posted and said, if BYD doesn't change course, they're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, BYD obviously is no longer. They've always said we think autonomy is impossible, right? So I think he's really making this comment in relation to autonomy. You can be great at producing a bunch of low-cost vehicles, but if you don't take autonomy seriously, the business is going to be in major trouble.
I agree. All right. On that note, let's end it. I need to get ready for my interview with Chris. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. A special shout out for all the new members today. We added 18 new members, and a shout out to Joa Life, the link to which is at the top of our screens. This episode is sponsored by Joa. If you use the code TSLA Live, you get 5% off. I get 5%. Oh, we just got one more new member, Libby Palmer. Thank you very much. So we have 19 new members today. It's been an amazing day in terms of new members, patrons, subscribers, on followers on X. A great episode and more to come tonight on YouTube. One-on-one interview with Chris. And I will chat with you guys tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.